I love some of those final comments about making sure that the humans are still bringing the human element. But it was kind of mind-blowing hearing some of the stories that we had from our panel just now. And if things haven't been mixed up enough, we're now moving into our controversial, what we're calling our controversial panel. And this is around shattered dreams. Is the progress that we've made on DEI enough? People are struggling at all levels within society, and their challenges can be met by credit unions. We believe that. The future is kind of scary, and dreaming about a better time or a better life seems so distant and far away. False hope isn't reality and often frustrates consumers. What is real? What can I count on? Who can I count on? How can I get and be better? I'd like to bring up our next panel. First, we have Miss Renee Sadie-White, President and CEO of AACUC. Renee brings fire to diversity, equity, and inclusion and is bound to get some shit started, right? Can I hold you on that? Okay. Pablo Filippi is the EVP of Inclusive. There he is. Pablo knows that DEI is our future. No need to ask. He's going to tell us about it. Next, we have Beth Carr, who's the president and CEO of Santa Cruz Community Credit Union. When Beth took the reins at Santa Cruz Community, she wanted to serve differently and has achieved one of the highest scores in member impact. We have Jim Morrell, the president and CEO of Peninsula Credit Union. Jim is leading a credit union, serving as a CUNA board member, looking to reshape the way credit union organization boards embrace DEI. And finally, we've got Victor Coro, the CEO of Coopera. Victor is all about serving the underserved, and he helps credit unions reach the Hispanic market as well. Please take it away, Ms. Renee.
Wow. It's good to see everybody. Tom Davis, can you stand? Where's Tom? Did he leave? Tom? Tom, I need you to stand. Did he leave? He left. Everybody, Tom's name is not Bob. I called him Bob. I just want you to know that. I want him to know that I remembered his name. So diversity, where are we? First thing I want to say is don't fire your C-level people without thinking you're going to have pushback. You're going to have pushback. You're going to have pushback. You can fire C-level executives, but you need to make sure that you're firing for performance and not because you're uncomfortable. Not because you're uncomfortable. You told me to stir it up. So what I'm seeing is that people are they're reaching out. They want to do better. They want to do what's right. I'm excited. Last time we were here, there were 6 African Americans. Today there's double that, so that's good. That's really good. So what are we going to do as an industry to look diversity, equity, and inclusion in the face? What does it look like? What do we need to do differently? We need to be bold. We need to be mindful. We need to be brave. But we got to be courageous, and we got to have heart. So what my compadre will tell you is that we need to do more. We're not doing enough. And I'm the one saying, slow down, dude, slow down. You got to take them slow. You got to take them slow. Well, we're excited because DEI Tuesday has now been a thing. We made it a thing at GAC. And now CUNA is saying, it's a thing. It's a thing.
Yes, it is a thing.
It's a thing. It's a thing. So if we didn't have the underground, we couldn't get to DEI Tuesday. The underground was the precursor to DEI Tuesday. So all these things are building on one another. I can't begin to tell you how important the shattered underground is. It's here to make you think. What are you thinking about? What's going to make a difference? And so for me, looking at the C-suite, I see things changing. If there's over 451 credit unions that are $1 billion in assets, and there's only 14 African-American CEOs, I'm afraid to even find out how many Latinos there are. We need to do better. We're not doing enough. We need to do better. But I am thrilled that number 2 or number 3 largest credit union is led by an African-American woman, VCU. Woohoo! Right? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. really pretty cool that the top 5 credit unions, 2 are badass women, Mary McDuffie and Beverly. Hey, hey, right? So we're doing better with our diversity. Not good enough. I'm done.
I'm done too. All right. So I want to be patient, right? So yes, we have made a lot of progress. I've been coming to GAC for 20 years. I used to have hair, used to be taller. And this crowd has changed a lot, right? I remember meeting, some Latinos, on the corner because we were so out of place here. And that's changed. I see diversity, and that's encouraging, but it's not enough, right? It's not enough. And we can celebrate and we can recognize, hey, we've come a long way. We have DI Tuesday, we have Juntos Avanzamos Roundtable, there's a CDFI Roundtable, there's CU Pride. I mean, CUC, NALCA, we have all these amazing initiatives going on, and we should be proud of that, but it's not enough. And why it's not enough? Because of what Aaron Long said just a minute ago. 1 out of 5 people in this country are credit invisible. And what are we doing to do that, to address that, really? So let's put that in perspective. 1 out of 5 people, that's a whole country. England has 51 million people. A whole country in this country. And those are just the credit invisible. Let's talk about people who have such low credit scores that we intentionally are denying them access. So that's another 50 million people. Right? So what can we do to change that? How can we really think about impacting our members in a way that is fair to them, sustainable to us, but where we can really recognize that we're not doing enough? I remember the Move Your Money movement many years ago. Credit unions, shied away from that. We were like, oh, that's money coming to us. We were afraid of stepping up. We were afraid. And I really felt that it was a missed opportunity. We had to get a pandemic to be able to respond and to be recognized, right? All of a sudden, credit unions became financial first responders. And you know what? That was incredible because for the first time, we believed in ourselves. We believed in ourselves and we were different than banks out there. We were open when banks shut down. And our members recognized that. And the country recognized that. And all of a sudden, we had money coming to us. $12 billion were part of this CARES Act. How many of you guys are CDFI here? CDFI certified? Many more can be CDFI certified. That's giving us visibility, but also it's giving us responsibility. We can do more. Can we? Yes, right? And here, Beth is going to talk about that and how a CDFI credit union can really make that difference.
I can be in charge of a credit union, but I can't turn my mic on. I appreciate that, Pablo. I want to give just a little bit of backstory because I think it's important to this whole effort, is that I first went to Santa Cruz Community Credit Union about 12 years ago. I had been watching that credit union for years because I was impressed and inspired by what they were doing. It always seemed like they were walking the walk and doing incredible things for people in the community. So when the CEO position came up, I said, well, I think I'll throw my hat in, and I was shocked to find out that they would hire me. So when I arrived, of course, now fast forward, it's 2011, and the whole economy has crashed, and the credit union had made dozens and dozens of small business loans to organizations who couldn't get business loans, right? And it was all about the credit was created by activists who felt that no one had a voice. The small businesses didn't have a voice. They had no place to get a loan. The community didn't have a voice. We had a huge Latinx community in our area that had a no voice, could not get a loan. And so, here we are, struggling with capital, thinking, where are the resources? I called Pablo a couple times and cried, what am I going to do? Because it's like, how do you make this happen? I had many a night where I was awake going, is this mission worth it? And that's kind of what I wanted to come to the point. Is the mission worth it? And the mission about promoting economic justice, about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Is it really worth it? What do I need to do to, not only, pull the credit union up by the bootstraps, but more importantly, myself, right? So what I've learned over the years is that CDFIs, we were one of the first CDFIs in the nation, I think. Pablo used to tell me, just to encourage me, that we were the poster child for CDFIs across the nation because of the things we were doing. And it took a long time for me to, there were a lot of things I wanted to do when I arrived there, and I had to put some of those things on the shelf because we didn't have the resources to do what we needed to do. And so I just went and did them myself because I wanted to make sure we still looked like a CDFI, right? Because we had no resources. So I was out doing financial literacy. I was meeting with people in the community and doing whatever I could do. But what I learned was that when the DEI industry trend came, like in the last few years, where it became a thing, I thought, well, we're DEI from the beginning. But that made me feel a little guilty that I didn't have a policy, so I had to go out and write a policy. DEI is not about a checklist. Some of you may have done the NCOA DEI survey in the last few months and said, it's a checklist. What's the percentage of women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses that you have as vendors? If you live in a rural area, it's going to be a little bit limited, right? Depending on the regional makeup. So you can't just do the checklist and do the things and say you're a DEI. Hey, we're a DEI organization. So what I've learned is the change isn't about what we do and how we're trying to meet people's needs. It's in here, right? I had to have a serious conversation with myself about where are my prejudices? Where are my norms from childhood that you have to question and say, what am I thinking? Am I just doing the thing and being a great actress, or am I really down home saying, I need to change? If I can change, then the culture of my credit union can change, and if my credit union can change, then the community might be able to change. And if we all do that together, then we are kind of a force to be reckoned with, that we can change the world. Because it is really about the heart. All of these folks that are struggling have felt outside for a long time, outside the margins. And I'm the white chick from Southern California. So I've got people that didn't trust me because I'm the white chick from Southern California. So I have worked really hard to create diversity in my organization by making sure that our staff and our management reflect the community. But that's just a thing. Again, it comes back to what's going on in my heart. What is it that I need to do to overcome my own, unknown things that you grow up with, right? And you don't even realize it until it comes into your mind. And so we all need to look at those things. It's really an internal struggle more than anything else. We need to look at those things. We need to look at those thoughts that come into our heads, and arrest them and shatter them, because they are what keeps us from doing all the right things.
Credit unions. Happy family. So you just touched on a couple of things that I think it makes all of us have the opportunity to be much more bold. When I've traveled to my credit union family and visited them in Africa and tried to think through with them what it's like for a Ugandan farmer to deal with 3 years of drought or 4 years or 5 years of drought, what will their credit union do for them? What happens when a Kenya police officer is killed in line of duty and leaves his wife and children behind, and the credit union only took in male members? It took bold action by a board to change the bylaws of that credit union to accept women. Sometimes things take time to change, right? 25 years ago, a credit union professional struggling with his sexuality sits before you today as an openly gay man on the CUNA board. It's those kinds of generative changes that begin to influence things. We are not doing as best as we can. We have 2 new members of the CUNA board that join us Monday, 2 women replacing 2 white men, 1 African American woman out of those 2. Right? That's the excitement that I get, the passion that I feel, right? That we can effectuate change. We can make things happen. But it starts, as you said, with ourselves. It starts with the teams of people around us. It starts with individuals that I reached out to through CU Pride when recently this CEO was faced with walking the journey with an employee who is transitioning from female to male. And we have the resources to be able to support us. When the CEO was facing some dramatic changes or growing changes in our population that were Hispanic, I had a friend that I met here who was able to help me understand that, not only through data, but through experience. And those lived experiences that we have propel us to reach out to more and more people and to double the number of African Americans that are in this room, or to increase the number of Hispanics that we see that are sitting beside you, right? That's the power. It's the power when we don't have that lived experience and we can begin to think through things and empathize with other folks, right? A couple years ago, just at the start of the pandemic, my mother-in-law divorced her husband of 40 years because he had a gambling addiction. Earlier this month, a member reached out to me and said, last September, my daughter was diagnosed with lymphoma. My world changed. I turned to the casinos. I'm now in debt. Can you help me? That takes, we're in the risk business, right? We don't say, oh, let's find every addict that we possibly can, but there are people that are saying, because she wasn't responding to my message, I was like, she's not going to come back, but she had self-checked herself into an inpatient facility in Arizona, and when she was getting near the end, reached out and said, I'm committed to doing this, and we've connected with her with a financial educator. Our staff don't have the lived experiences all the time of some of the members, like Jason, who we met when he was living in his car because his credit score was 465. So he met with our staff, he met with our financial educator, and all of our staff in the credit union, by the way, are certified financial educators. So he met with our community financial educator and quickly realized that there were errors in his credit score. It went up to 650. He had an apartment the next month and a place to live, right? It takes that leap of faith, that trust that we as credit unions are really good at, right? Empathizing, thinking about things through other people's eyes. Our employees may not have those lived experiences, but when we have a member of our team that suffers from cancer and we rally around her, not only with the emotional support, but the financial support, then the next person, which may have nothing to do with somebody with cancer, comes along, like the member who had a gambling addiction, we think twice. And I guess that's what I'm learning and experiencing over and over again. We think twice. We think twice about why did DEI Tuesday happen in a tent last year, far away. I think it was cold, right? I wasn't able to make it. So being able to press the envelope a little bit, and with a lot of people with a lot of energy doing things, we're making DEI Tuesday happen as a part of an inclusive part of GAC this year, but a board member raising his hand in June saying, where's that taking place? And oh, by the way, we passed the 8th cooperative operating principle a few years ago. I think the guy's name was Maurice Smith, right? It's not on the CUNA website yet. But there's a page now for diversity, equity, and inclusion that just went up this week that is. And it's because of pioneers and leaders like Maurice and others and those of you in this room that are making that change happen. So from me, thank you. Credit unions.
Happy family.
Happy family.
Thank you, everyone. And thanks, Sue and Brandy and the Underground for having me. I come here in two capacities. I'm the CEO of Coopera Consulting, an Iowa-based credit union owned by the Iowa Credit Union League, created 15 years ago to really understand the changes in the demographics of this country. So my next capacity is I'm the chair of the CU DEI Collective, which is an organization, a group that gathers professional organizations. Most of you here are touched by this collective to make sure that this industry cares about the three words diversity, equity, and inclusion, which, by the way, have gotten politicized in this country, which is a shame. However, what I want to start saying is that the United States is going through a transformational change when it comes to its demographic. We are 10 years away from being a minority-majority country, which means all people of color will be more than the white component of the demographics. However, this industry is 90% white when it comes to C-suite and board. How can we be relevant when we have that composition of power? So change is needed. And talking from from a perspective of a very impatient person, I see the lights through analytics and see how we should be doing more. Have we done a lot? We have done a lot. We have a DEI Tuesday. We have an industry hiring diversity, equity, and inclusion professionals. We have, CU Pride. We have, a lot of these groups. But again, they still feel at the margins, if I were to be honest. You still have to fight to be visible. And that's what our members are feeling as well. I do a lot of focus groups. And, the people of color sometimes do say, I don't know if I feel connected to this bank. It's really sad when they call us bank. And when they realize that we are a financial cooperative, and then we tell them about our principles, what we stand for, that really resonates with that consumer. But I don't know that we are really giving that message clearly. So in 20 years that I spent at the World Council of Credit Unions, I visited, I believe, about 60 plus countries. And when you would ask anyone who worked at a credit union, especially a CEO, and you ask, so what do you do? They basically said, well, I work for a community-based organization that helps the community. When you ask the questions in the United States, usually we talk about assets, size, about loan portfolio, and about banking jargon. And so there's a fundamental difference when it comes to being really committed and really have that purpose clear of what we're here to do. We're here to do two things: financial inclusion and financial well-being. So financial inclusion is having the curiosity to ask, who are we leaving behind within our field of membership? You learn that through data. If you know that 20% of your Hispanics live in your field of membership, but yet you have only 1% Hispanic membership, you gotta do more. You have to find what is preventing people from joining your credit union. Usually it's the ID that they have. Usually it's that they don't have a social security number. It may be an IT number. But many credit unions may have the policy, but they don't apply it. Or they don't, the front staff doesn't know that. So, if we get to a place in which you ask anyone at a credit union, what do you do? And they would say, we are a community-based organization that happens to be in financial services, that would be a happy day for us. We're a tool for development, and that's what we first and foremost are. We're not a bank. We shouldn't aspire to be a bank. And I think that's something that, we should do a better job in our industry to really internalize. Once we know that, we go about and help our community. Jim's credit union found a pocket of Guatemalans that don't even speak Spanish. How does he serve them? You know, through data, through all of these things, we find those things and find what has kept people marginalized. And we can apply different things to make sure that they feel like they belong in the country, that they're part of the country, that they are American as well. They have the American experience. If we have marginalized people, we will have more conflict. If we don't work on poverty and wealth accumulations to be transferred to the next generation, we have failed as an industry. And those things are the things that we actually need to be very mindful of and cut all the distractions. We do two things, financial inclusion and financial well-being. So make sure that your heart is set on those two things. That's my message.
So, Brandy, we're thinking that we've solved the problems of DEI, and we're going to leave the stage now.